Hello. Right, everyone, we'll be starting the town hall in a few minutes. Wrap up your conversations and have a seat. Please do stay. Please don't leave the room. I see people waving and leaving. Please don't do that. And really, it's for your benefit that you stay because this is one of the important sessions at APrIGF. It is to hear from you what is important. All right, are we ready? Synthesis Town Hall Session 2. Can we take our seats? Thank you. So, a few reminders and pointers of housekeeping. When you come over to the mic, remember to state your name and your affiliation. We do want to hear from you. For those who have joined us yesterday, the Synthesis Town Hall is for you to voice your inputs on the things that you think should be included in this year's synthesis document. Next slide. We still have our two lovely co-chairs here, Yin-Chin and Stella, and I actually want to give the time mostly to everybody here. I've been told by some people that I have to end on time, so the most time possible for you guys to tell us what is important. And I pass the floor over to Yin-Chin.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. So yesterday we talked about inclusion and trust sub-themes, and we haven't touched on sustainability, so we'll start with sustainability first today. Next slide, please. Yeah, next. And next again, sorry. Yep, so we're gonna start with sustainability today. We had a very lively discussion yesterday. We had a lot of inputs, but currently at the platform, we only have 44 comments. I think we had more input yesterday actually than what we had gathered after the session, before the session yesterday. So if you had shared any input yesterday but haven't gone to the platform yet, I strongly encourage you to, or rather I require you, thank you, to go to the platform to put your input there, thank you. And then also a shout out to our virtual participants before we even start, because yesterday we didn't have any input from the virtual participants. We talked a lot about inclusion, so we really hope we hear from you as well participating virtually. So without further ado, we're gonna start with sustainability sub-team. Is there anyone on the floor that would like to start giving your inputs on any key highlights or discussion points that you think were very useful from the two sustainability sessions yesterday? Any hands?
I guess I'll join to start. This is Edmund Chung from .Asia, and yesterday in a session that we helped organize, which is the Eco-Internet, that talked about the Eco-Internet Index. One interesting area that we touch on, I think very relevant for the synthesis document, is the idea that the issue of sustainability should be tackled at a global level in a multi-stakeholder model. What we are doing here is not only relevant for the internet, but also perhaps the multi-stakeholder model that we are developing here could be applied in other matters of global governance as well. So this might be something that's useful for the synthesis document. Thank you.
Thank you, Edmund, for starting the ball rolling. Anyone else on inputs and sustainability? So there were two sessions yesterday. One, please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Kate from Thailand. I'm an environmental media researcher. I would like to address the first question about the sustainability and carbon initiatives. As talked yesterday, I think the issue that our internet community need to address is not only carbon emission but also the land use. In this case, we need to identify whose land is being used to build internet infrastructure like data center, and how do we compensate them? And who build those infrastructure? Like, are they migrant workers? Are they forced labor? Are they from marginalized communities? And eventually, I think could we consider them as part of an internet ecosystem? Another issue is about the e-waste. As you may know, like Thailand and other countries in Southeast Asia, poor people are suffering from the e-waste. They are waste picker and it's considered like informal workers. So they collect and separate and sell those e-waste and they get an income. But these cash come along with the illness from the pollution, toxics, something like that. So we need to include them. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. I think what you shared was very useful. So thank you for that. And even for your question, please include them inside the platform as well. They will be very useful. Thank you. So we're continuing with more inputs on sustainability. Anyone from the floor?
Good afternoon, I'm Mong from the Philippines. As for sustainability, in order to connect to the internet, we need devices, smartphones, computers. And in building these products, usually you need mineral resources. We need also to discuss how the extraction of mineral resources are also displacing many people, especially in Asia Pacific, especially indigenous peoples. So they should be part of the discussion. They should be consulted as well. The impact of increasing internet access to these communities, which are not connected to the internet. On the second question about sustainability for the equitable workforce, it is not enough that we incorporate the point of view of platforms, employers. We should have more voices from the gig workers themselves to talk about labor rights, labor security, the need to advance their rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. I think in the Asia Pacific region, engaging like indigenous people is a very key aspect. And also, yeah, I agree with you in terms of like labor input as well. Yeah, please go ahead.
Kia ora, Ricky Manarangi. Look, I just want to say in terms of sustainability that there's plenty of opportunity for policy to support a lot of the peer-to-peer platforms and supporting not only in terms of enablement of a lot of those platforms which utilize the excess capacity, like Grab is one of them, but also supporting the infrastructure to make sure that people do have the ability to engage in those platforms, because if more people were able to engage in those platforms, then more excess capacity can be utilized essentially. So if the infrastructure is not there to enable people to participate in those marketplaces, where you've got a lot of ability to maximize, say for example, one vehicle as opposed to having various other vehicles doing the same work, then that means ultimately when you times that by 1,000 or 100,000, then there's a lot more vehicles that are off the road, but you need the infrastructures to enable people to participate in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comment?
Hi, I'm Letitia from the Solomon Islands. I agree with what you said about including indigenous people, especially when we have cultural values to add on to that too. Plus, it's not just Asia, but if we could have that sustainability included with Pacific as well, please.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for pointing that out. We'll include that. And Amina?
Hi, I'm Amina. I'm not sure if this point has been talked about yesterday because I didn't attend the first town hall. I'm sorry, but this is to answer the first question. I think there should be, for multi-stakeholder collaboration in policy making. There should be adoption and, most importantly, education about technology. Being from the blockchain industry, we are growing, but just like any other technology, we need to experiment them. So I think there should be a space, and I think echoing one of the previous ones on the infrastructure that should be built. So I believe technology should be seen as a tool, and it definitely can make a lot more processes and create an environment that can support what we wish to do and make it more effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amina. Yep, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Luke. I'm part of the APrIGF organizing committee, and feeding off of Mina's point of education, I think it's really important to have youth centered in the policy making, because I've read that Gen Z is the most internet dependent generation, and if we could equip them with digital literacy, which eventually would lead to digital citizenship, maybe they can learn about ways that they can make the internet a more sustainable place. For example, unsubscribing from mailing lists that they no longer want. But from a previous session, we also learned that even unsubscribing from sort of things can be hard because of, I think it was called dark practice or something like that, where they design it in a way that's really hard to unsubscribe from something. So the education is a really important factor. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, with the youth growing up with the internet, definitely it's an important input to have there. And yes, we have a next comment.
Hi, just to add to the point from the Philippines earlier, if trends in the US are anything to go by, it may be that we might see a rise of labor unions and workers unionizing for a better workplace and working environment and making specific demands. I guess to answer the second question, it would be good if that the policymakers and the environments that they're in would encourage that as opposed to discourage that. Because the response to the US has been to shut down as much of these labor unions as possible. But their voices are really important. And just to add on to the gig workers point, that we may see more of that in the coming years. Thanks.
Thank you. And is there any other inputs for sustainability?
Hi, this is Joyce from APrIGF. We had a very good APrIGF Cooperation 6 session, which talked about internet fragmentation. And I think for the theme of sustainability, we don't only look at environmental issues or future of work, but we also should look at the sustainability of the internet as a whole. And so I think the discussions on fragmentation and the impact on human lives, I think it's worth putting it into the synthesis document and having like a specific paragraph or 2 paragraphs just addressing this issue. So thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. Yes, we'll note that down. We totally agree with that. Anyone else on sustainability? Yeah. We need to give the mic to bring the mic.
Thank you. My name is Bhaskar. My definition of sustainability is a little bit different. I think we need to consider the national level standard, which already exists in the global level for ensuring equitable internet-based service. If we don't have the standard, then a larger portion of the people with disabilities will not able to even access the content and internet with a sustainable manner. If I give you an example, like if I go for a e-commerce site, maybe I need to depend on others, and maybe if there is a standard we can develop, then user experience on sustainability could more increase. It not look like it might be an inclusion issue, but same time is a question of sustainability, because should I sustain an internet platform or not?
Yes, thank you. I think indeed a lot of these discussions cut across different sub-teams, and as we discuss sustainability, it's important to get more inputs because different people would have different perspectives on what sustainability is as well. So that's a very important input as well. Anyone else on sustainability? Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, Deborah from Indonesia. So I think we need, in terms of sustainability in internet governance, we need to also prioritize the element of reducing instead of recycling e-waste. We talked a lot about recycling. But in this climate crisis, it's important to actually radically talk about reducing, and the concept of degrowth, which is to rethink growth-oriented business models of internet companies, and to think about how the concept of degrowth can materialize, for example, in internet governance, for example, in the right to repair. We have that concept as one of the materialization, but it could also materialize in other concepts and approaches. And I think at the global IGF, we need to be able to talk about these uncomfortable issues. I mean, to discuss about how degrowth can and cannot work in terms of internet-related devices, so that the government, platform companies, and civil society can deliberate together and talk about the possibility of implementing degrowth concept in internet governance, particularly related to the production, consumption, and the production and consumption of internet-related devices. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. We would love to have that included in the synthesis document. Anyone else on sustainability? No? Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Lokendra from India. I have two comments on sustainability. First is regarding data centers. So a lot of data centers have proliferated across the world, as we know, and they are going to increase much more rapidly than we can project. So, and they draw energy from the existing grids mostly. Some have their own energy generation systems, maybe some draw from renewable sources, but I think mostly they draw from the existing ones which come from fossil fuels. So one aspect of sustainability may be to power them all from renewable sources as a start. And second aspect of sustainability I want to talk about is there's a trend right now, especially in the US, to send a lot of satellites, small satellites in space, and then relay internet back to Earth. So sounds good. You can reach remote locations. We see it in action in Ukraine right now being deployed, and it's really helping in conflict zones also. But at the same time, if a lot of companies jump into it and crowd this, because there are only very limited orbits available where you can do this, and if a lot of companies jump in and crowd the space where we can put these satellites, then there will be two issues. First will be the debris. The debris issue is serious. Then second would be, if US and European companies crowd it, then less space would be available to developing countries to put their own satellites. They can't do it right now because they lack the resources, but maybe 10 years from now, they will have the resources. So two aspects of sustainability I wanted to flag. Thank you.
Thank you for both your input. I think specifically on data center, as the use is increased, we really need to think about the energy consumption there. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Waiting from Taiwan, and I want to echo about the problem of sustainability on people with visual disability. And I know there is an app called Be My Eyes, an app that can help people to, people with visual disability can use that app to ask others to help them recognize something in front of them, or something they want to get through the smartphone, the lens in the smartphone. So others, the helper, can see those things and describe how to use it or how to get it from the smartphone. And I think it is a really good idea to involve this kind of civil society's help to those people in need. But I also find that it is not really so popular for others to use. So I think raise this kind of awareness so people can help with little effort is really important. And that people know this kind of application exists is really also important. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and hopefully with increased awareness that would improve. Anyone else on sustainability? Because if we're kind of satisfied with our discussion on sustainability, we'll open the floor for all the sub teams and also for even for inclusion and trust. There were more sessions that happened today, so maybe more people, you would have extra additional inputs after hearing or participating in the sessions today. And with that, I'm going to take it as everyone agrees. So we're going to open the floor to all the sub-teams. So inclusion, trust, and sustainability. So any inputs that you think you would like to share or flag for the synthesis document, please go ahead. The floor is yours. And at the same time, we're also checking if we have any inputs from the virtual participants. So a shout out again to all the virtual participants. Please share your inputs as well.
Hello, I'm Sarah Park from South Korea. Actually, it is about sustainability and inclusiveness also. I think sustainability grounds from awareness. Already he mentioned education before. Multi-stakeholder diversity is grounds from awareness too, because many people doesn't know about this issue actually. Yes, because almost of IG issue is written by English. That is why many people doesn't know about this. So to promote public awareness of IG, use IGF and maybe I can do, can play a role in translating and delivering IG issue into each country's language. It is very important because we just do it when we participate in this forum. Yeah, because we have duty to advertise this forum, but it is not enough. I mean, we need to more sustainable, active to spread out this issue. Yes, it's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for offering in advance for the translation. We'll definitely reach out to you if we do have something like that. But yes, indeed, I think sustainability itself in Asia Pacific is a term that maybe like we had different interpretations earlier as well. So maybe when we just talk about sustainability, everyone would be like, so what does the term even mean? Yeah, so that's definitely a lot of discussion that can be developed from there. And anyone else on any theme, any sub-theme, any inputs? Yep. Are you? Oh no. Okay.
Hi, this is V from India again. I'm an APrIGF, APsec fellow this year. I think for sustainability and inclusion especially, and trust also to a degree, I suppose we're already, since this is a regional forum, we're already looking at what individual efforts have been or community-led efforts have been at, but I really want to emphasize that there are already systems in place at some level in within countries down to the regional, like in India, and the panchayat level or the local levels. And those case studies need to be highlighted. I don't know if they're already highlighted in the synthesis document, but rather than the document being sort of, and I'm not saying that this is going to be a framework for how we start thinking about sustainability, inclusion, trust on the internet, but looking at things that are already in place and then building up from there. And this is going to be a massive task because by nature, it's going to be a lot of work. But if there aren't already examples such as these, it'll also make it easier to read. I am concerned about accessibility in terms of reading the document itself. It's quite heavy. I tried going through it. But I am interested in seeing how that will the document will end up looking at the end of it. So it's easier to read for people who might have difficulty parsing large amounts of text at once. So those two.
Thank you for that input. In fact, we actually had this comment in previous years as well. I think the drafting committee will take note of this. We need to make sure this document represents our region in the way that also makes sense and value for people in our community to be able to use it in the way they would like to. So we're hoping to not have it in a very complex, like a UN level language. We want it to be accessible to everybody in the community to be able to use. So thank you very much for your comment.
I am a member of the drafting committee, so I feel bad that I'm using this airtime. I kept missing all the meetings and deadlines for intervention at the drafting committee level, so I came here. I want to speak to the two sub-themes, internet fragmentation and internet standards. There is a legislative movement brewing in Korea, which is having reverberation in Europe as well, which is the concept of network usage fee. Right now, the internet is a commodity, or internet is like a commodity. By commodity, I mean goods that are homogeneous wherever you buy. You buy water in Europe, it's almost the same as water bought in the US. Internet access is like that. The reason we are talking about connected versus unconnected in that binary sense is because whether you get internet access in Seoul, in London, Johannesburg, you get the same full connectivity with everyone else who has purchased internet access. Now, once you pay for internet access, once you pay for the connection capacity at which you are obtaining internet access, you are supposed to be able to send messages or contents, images, anything you upload to unlimited number of people who want to access it. So you can upload a YouTube video and you can have 1 billion people watch it, but you didn't have to worry about sending the cost of that video to 1 billion people. This was revolutionary if you look from the age of postage and telephone, where if you had to send a message or if you had to make a call to 1 billion people, you had to pay $1 billion. If you had to send letters to 1 billion people, you had to have $1 billion to do that. The internet made information revolution possible by getting rid of these data delivery fees, by allowing people unlimited data exchange as long as they buy internet access. Now, that's going to change if Korea successfully makes this law. It will first change for Korean people, and then it will change, well, it will change for people who are trying to connect with the people in Korea, because whoever is uploading video that is accessed by Korean people, the data traffic going into Korea will have to be paid for by the uploaders, the person who uploaded it. If this becomes law in EU, it will also change for all the people who want to upload videos or contents available for viewing by Europeans. This will fragment the internet. This will break the standard of internet that have made possible, and it will kill the information revolution that was made possible by the internet. I think, APrIGF has responsibility for addressing this, especially because this motive is coming from South Korea. So of course, I took responsibility for Korea, and we did mention this and had sessions at KRIGF. But still, the forces operating on this, there's a lot of money involved here. Telcos and ISPs for decades always wanted to go back to the age of a telephone and postage, where they could charge by the amount of data sent. I think we should put a stop to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I think the multi-stakeholder discussion is very important, where we engage with the policymakers on impacts of such regulations, and then as well as on providers, and then try to strike a balance as much as we can on that. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is Jenna Feng for the record. I am the program coordinator of the Asia Pacific Youth IGF. This is my 5th time organizing this, and I would say the youth participant has been actively engaged in this conversation, discussion this time. It's not because they are not only because they are self-motivated, but because in the youth community, we strategically create and design a program to help them to engage in all this discussion. Of course, yesterday we have a couple of workshops also talk about how inclusive we could be and how we could work on including new voices. And just want to echo on a little bit on what have been mentioned and brought up earlier. We also have similar discussion the other day at YIGF. We talk about the language barrier, and we identify it's not only at language proficiency level. Sometimes language is because it's contextual and it's related to different cultures. Translation is needed when we reach out to local level, because when it comes to engagement with newcomers, it's a must to use the language, the most comfortable language, so they can get to learn new knowledge about internet governance. But at the same time, we have to empower them with the ability to communicate, because Asia Pacific it's really diverse and we speak to many different languages. English is the only language we are using that we share. But in terms of that, because of the background of Asia Pacific, is there any way that we can improve, for example, having like live interpretations that could help solve this kind of issues that we're facing? Because language is really a big barrier for most of the country in Asia. And so sorry for taking longer time, because there's a few points that I also want to raise. The Youth IGF identified also that collaborations is really important. The Youth IGF in Asia trying to take advantage of the role to communicate with each other and do as much as they can as youth. But then we also need organization to support them, not only financially, but all the other aspects. It's hard for youth to join this kind of discussion, most of them because they don't have the money to pay, or they don't have the job opportunity to work in this industry. But with what we have discussed the other day, we hope that all the youth initiative can do the work locally and try to negotiate with all the organizations at national or local level. And hopefully that could be also an invitation to anyone in this room, try to collaborate with your people in your country, because that would really help. And I would like to just like a big shout out to TWNIC or NII and also KISA by funding their own youth and then sending it to YIGF. I think this is a really good example of how organizations to take action and support newcomers and include the voices here. We have been saying we need to get the youth voice heard, but then this year, I think with all the discussion there, we do not just want the youth to be heard, because who is hearing it? We want us to be recognized, and then we are actually creating our output and put it into document, and then actively adding it into the synthesis document, and then joining discussion and workshop, and then to be included and recognized. And I know there's many different discussion at local level, and each and every one here is representing our own community. So there are important things that's been identified, and we should help including it in synthesis document if we think it is it is very important to be addressed. So I think one last thing, young people are here, and then me as an organizer, I tried my best to include all the Asia Pacific youth to be actively engaging, because our next generation is really important for the sustainability of our community. Just one really minor thing that we talked about the other day was that mailing list is the main communication tools that we use, and then sometimes maybe it will be quite difficult for newcomers to follow all the discussion there. Is there any other way that we can improve the efficiency and effectiveness in communication? Because the other time when you guys mentioned about MSG, many of the YIGF members expressed the interest in knowing more about that. So that was also one of the things that they reflect to me, and they're too shy to bring it up, so I'm just bringing it up here. Sorry for taking a little bit too long here, but hopefully this input will be helpful for our synthesis document. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Jenna. I'd like to highlight the fact that cultural differences also, in a session today, there was some mention of how we want to see human rights based framework, and particularly for like combating deceptive design. But I'd also like to highlight that in some countries, their adoption and understanding of human rights is a little different. So that may pose a challenge. And so yes, I'd like to move on to the next comment.
I'm John Jacob from the Philippines. My comment or suggestion for sustainability and inclusion is to encourage companies and technological companies, especially those who produce devices, to really distribute their oversupply of not outdated, but rather not new devices to the less connected parts of Asia Pacific, so that it could help out in the connectivity of the last and middle mile connections, because sometimes the trouble is not in the backbone, but rather in the middle mile and the last mile. Also that there would be civil CSOs involved, so as to have check and balances on this. And also in the technical trainings, I hope that they do include other brands as well, because in the last mile and middle mile, sometimes it's not only the big name brands that are being used. So in APrIGF trainings, we know what brands they use. Yeah, so it's easy. But when we go down there as technical people, it might be a totally different brand and different configurations are being done. And yeah, we could encourage economies and organizations to leverage maybe zero tax on customs on these types of devices, so that it could help distribution faster, including training, so that this might help in IPv6 or the use of IPv6 and other much more updated standards of the internet. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Ang from Myanmar. So I just want to get a short comment. Like when it comes to solve the issue with the sustainability inclusion, we cannot lever the government, right? So, but in reality, like so-called the government leaders and intergovernmental organization just giving the words and not action, not serious action, right? So shifting their agenda to many years like 2030, then again 2015 again. So I think the accountable action and solution-oriented, the recommendation and research should be included in this document because the action beyond the words and documents are way more important to achieve this trust, inclusion, and sustainability and other many issues. Next one, we should also include the local context. I mean localization, the case study about the internet governance, because some delegate already mentioned about the language barrier to get access and a way more inclusive and diverse. And here I want to include a local context. Yes, global issue have to be aware for other people, but like case study about the local localization and local contents can make the local people more relatable concerning with the internet governance and to be more understandable. So this is my short comment for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I agree that localization is definitely very important because the context is important for, local environment. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Vivek Silwal and I'm from Nepal. My comment is on the sustainability and climate change thing. So while primarily we look at the climate change thing, it affects price and energy efficiency or global warming. But when we look at the secondary thing, the disaster or any events that caused by climate change, for example, drought, floods or tsunami, typhoon that affects internet's accessibility and affordability, the infrastructures are damaged or there are a lot of barriers that brings into it. So I think climate change is also one of the important things we need to bring into this regional events and asset discussions or sessions. So the sustainability effects should be brought in IZ, how the climate change directly or indirectly affects the internet, its accessibility, the price range. So I think there are a few incentives or innovations we can do in this event. We can organize energy efficient design technology or some prize events or something like that, that reduces the energy used by the internet and its infrastructures. So we can also incentivize the ISPs and internet access points that uses the green energy by reducing their taxes or incentives on how they use the data or their pricing thing. So, and also the important thing is who is to actually invest in this kind of incentives. Is it the government responsible, or is the multidimensional or multi-stakeholder responsible, or is it the multilateral organization that needs to work on it? I think this are the also things that need to be decided by this event. So, and I think we all should work on disaster and climate resilience network as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, natural disaster is something that we can't control, but we would definitely want to discuss in terms of proposed solutions. Thanks for the proposed solutions as well. Please include, do you want to add anything?
Yes, please do include your comment, really a valuable comment, into the comment.APrIGF.Asia. Just reminding everyone who put in a comment just now, do put it in your own words. Just responding very quickly to your intervention, there is really good work being done at the IGF intercessional work. There is a dynamic coalition on environment. They're doing very good work in terms of climate change with respect to the internet, with respect to digitalization. Also, there was the workshop yesterday on the Eco-Internet Index. So really do contact the organizers and see if you can assist or contribute to the work that's being done. Please.
Hi, good evening. I am Kaushalya Gupta. I'm from India and I'm from the World Wide Web Foundation. Firstly, I would like to really thank IGF and the Secretariat for giving us the opportunity to actually raise awareness about an issue that is very near to home for all of us. And also, for giving us a space to consult and engage with, people from all across the APAC region. So thank you to everyone and to IGF for this opportunity. One thing that emerged today was that, we're trying to tackle a problem that is nameless and faceless, like deceptive designs. What we've seen from engaging with 30 countries, like as the Web Foundation, is it's known through, has different definitions, it has different perceptions, and people in the design community, people in companies and governments, even within companies, within product teams, within policy teams, governments within, competition teams, consumer protection, as well as data protection teams, all have very different understandings of this. So I think opportunities like IGF and the processes that you follow actually allow us to kind of come together and kind of build a shared definition of what the problem is. So I really appreciate that. That being said, I'm leaving that session today with a realization that we also need to work together on defining what is it that we're trying to solve, right? Not just defining the common problem, which is deceptive design, but also the shared future, which is trusted design. Everything that we do online today is influenced by how the tools we use are built. And so, we've seen how harmful, these kind of practices can be in terms of privacy, consumer protection, as well as competition. What we need to do is kind of focus on, as you have there in the Venn diagram, trust and trusted design. Trusted design that puts people and their needs, ahead of the platform and gives the user control of their online lives as well as choices. And so in order to actually move away from the problem, which is deceptive design, and move towards trusted design, we need to not only focus on the output or the goal, but also the process behind it. And I feel like, I just want to share that a lot of the things that we learned through the IGF process are, it needs to be multi-pronged and it needs to be intersectional. Secondly, we need to involve and center voices from the global majority, and especially those who are most vulnerable. And thirdly, we need global frameworks as well as global collaboration, but these need to be locally driven and enforced. So at the end of the day, the solution of trusted design is only meaningful when it is co-created, when it's multi-stakeholder and it's human-centered. And it's ultimately the process that lends credibility to the solution. So I really thank IGF once again for giving us the opportunity to focus at the credibility of the solutions building process. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. As you mentioned, also the co-creation is an important part, and we do acknowledge that our local contexts and cultures need to be reflected in our efforts to reach our goals. Yes, next comment, please.
Thank you. I'm Sage from China, and I just want to add to Kaushalia's point. And I'm glad that this has been repeatedly mentioned in today's town hall session about building trust, and also like this issue about deceptive designs, and also the roles of policy making, as well as the issues around like a human rights framework. I understand that a lot of countries don't have existing human rights framework or like a legal framework to ensure the human rights, or a lot of countries have different paradigms. But here's the thing. So Asia specifically in this context, Asia is a hub, is a center for creating a lot of digital products, platforms, and shaping digital experiences. In the sustainability section just now, I heard some feedback around like the next generations are gonna live in a digital experience shaped by a lot of products built here in this region. And this region has the biggest population that access the internet through mobile devices that are completely different from our generation right now. So how do we actually like when we talk about co-creation, how do we actually find a paradigm that is not just following the current policy framework or the current policy, like the collaboration model? Like, what is the next level or stage for the co-creation is my question. I just wanted to put the question here, and also very curious about what you have to say, especially in consideration for the next convenings. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, sorry, I don't have the answer to your question, but it is a good question indeed. And I do, myself, I do have that question as well. So I really think, I mentioned yesterday as well for the synthesis document, if you have a question, it is okay to include a question in the synthesis document, because if it's a wide question and a very large one, it is up to discussion from different people as well. So sorry, I couldn't answer you, but thank you for raising that. Yep, next, please.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kasun Wickramasuri from Sri Lanka. I have 3 comments in this diagram. Is just to add, this is my opinion. One thing, it should be contents in accessible formats. Digital contents in accessible formats. It's focused in digital inclusion, trust, and also the sustainability. Second thing is localized inclusion policies, digital inclusion policies. We have to focus in this one. And thirdly, it has to focus sustain, that means focusing ecosystem for the sustainability. Those are 3 things I have for my focus. It's also, I think those 3 things should be in the middle one: inclusion, sustainability, and also enhance the trust. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we did receive a lot of inputs yesterday in terms of accessible content as well, in different kinds of suggestions. So if you could elaborate maybe in the synthesis document on further what do you think is accessible to you, that would be great as well. Yeah, thank you. And next comment.
Just following on, sorry, Winston Roberts, I'm on the drafting committee for this document. Just following on from the comment from the previous speaker, the gentleman from Sri Lanka, I think it would be a good idea if we consider updating this diagram. I mean, it's a diagram that's got its own history, but there's no rules, none of our rules prevent us from upgrading it, updating it. So yeah, maybe take on new suggestions for the diagram. That's all.
Thank you, Winston. Of course, we, as a drafting committee, definitely have the responsibility to update our content as well. This diagram here is really just to get people to think about all the things they've heard today. And of course, it's our responsibility to then translate everything we've heard into an upgraded version and our version of the synthesis document for this year. I know that we're very fast running out of time. We have 2 minutes left, and I've been told we have to end on time. If we can actually turn to the second to last slide, which is the next steps slide. Yes, so here.
Yeah, so just to reiterate on the timeline, today we are at the Town Hall meeting, so this is the second session. Thank you everyone for your participation for these 2 days in the Town Hall session. And we're gonna sound like broken recorders, but whatever input you have, please go to the platform comment.APrIGF.Asia and put it in your own words. All the inputs that we've heard were really, really essential and important and useful. And then the public input period will be open until 18 September. So the platform is open until 18 September for your comments. And then thereafter, the drafting committee will actively work on it until end of October, where we will publish draft 1. And then it's open to everyone again for your comments, which is the public input period 2 here from end October to mid-November. And then the drafting committee will continue working on that with more inputs from you. And we are targeting to publish the synthesis document by end November.
And that will bring us right to Global IGF, which will be end of November in Addis. So can we go to the last slide? Just wanted to remind everyone here with us in person and online that the drafting committee is still open for membership. You can send an email to sec@aprigf.asia, send us your name, send us your stakeholder affiliation, and we would like to have your input and your volunteer time to help us draft this document. This is a document that represents our voice, and this is a document that will encapsulate the very important discussions we have at APrIGF. So with that, I think we can end the last town hall of APrIGF.
Thank you, everyone.
Is there any announcement from APNIC about logistics for the bus? I'm looking at Joyce.
Thanks very much. Looks like I am the only representative. Well, it's already 6:30, and as you heard, if you were at the opening, that there will be buses leaving from the Grand Hyatt lobby, I think latest by 6:45, but because, and this is a tip for everyone, there are limited buses and limited seats. So not everybody is going to be able to make it. If you have a ticket, I recommend that you go down and then just start queuing up for the bus already. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Recording stopped.
Fellows, please come to the stage for a short briefing. Yes. Hello. Fellows, please come forward to the stage.